Hello, hello, hello everybody. Welcome to my new studio in my new home. I am so excited to finally be settled in and ready to paint, and I've created my first design here for you guys. It's a Christmas one. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope that you are going to enjoy painting it. Let's take a look at it. I've titled this one Riding the Peppermint Train, and I love painting peppermint, so this one I thought of doing the peppermint on the wheels. That was just like, that made the design for me, so I hope that you are going to enjoy painting this one as well. If you are new to my YouTube channel, I hope that you will hit that subscribe button and please click on that notification bell so you know anytime that I post a new video or go live, and at any point you are enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up. I appreciate you all. We are going to be using Deco Art Americana acrylic paints, so if you're ready, let's grab our paints and supplies and let's get painting. Okay, we have got this surface here. This is a 6x12 canvas panel. You can certainly work on any type of surface that you want. But I'll be painting on this canvas panel. So I've got my dampened 2-inch foam roller, and I have Deep Midnight Blue, and we're going to apply 2 coats for our background on here. If you're on a wood surface, you will want to apply a coat of multi-purpose sealer. Let it dry, lightly sand, and then go in with your paint. Alright, here's my first layer on here. I'm going to let it dry and then apply a second coat of the blue on here. Alright, my background color is dry, so now I want to splatter some white in the background for some snow effect or nighttime sky effect, whatever you want to call it. I'm using a 1/2 inch rake brush, filbert rake brush. It's got very long bristles at the end of it, so it's good for splattering, but any paintbrush will do. This just happens to be my favorite one to use. So I'm going to grab a larger handled paintbrush, and I'll start adding some little snow texture in the sky. And if any of them come out bigger than what you want, just take a baby wipe or a damp paper towel and diffuse them. Or if you end up putting more than you want on there, just tap with a baby wipe. That will diffuse it and make it less snowy. So that looks pretty good for our snowy background. So I'm going to get this dry, put my line drying on, and get my base coat colors on. Okay, I got my line drying on and I've got my base coats on, so I'm going to tell you what my base coats are because they take a little bit of time to do, and it's just basic color book painting. We don't need to necessarily have that in the video because you're just blocking in color at this point. So I do want to give you a tip. When I transferred on my circles, I used a circle stencil and just painted them in with a stencil brush so that I could have them in there nicely. Now if you have a square stencil, you could paint those in as well with a square stencil. I did not transfer on any of my stripes, the Christmas lights up here, or anything that's on each car. We'll come back and add that later. Details on the eyes and nose, I did not add on any of these. So we're just basic color book painting at this point. So I'll tell you what I have painted everything. The green colors are a mix of leaf green and snow white, a 1-to-1 mix here. Okay. The blue areas are bright blue and snow white, 1-to-1 mix. The yellow areas are moon yellow and snow white, 1-to-1 mix. We just want to have the color a little bit brighter for as we add our shading and stuff on here. The red areas I first undercoated with gray sky. There's only a couple, 3 places actually. And then I came back and applied 2 to 3 coats of red depending on how well it covered. And then just the regular gray areas, which is only this here and this, is just gray sky. The white areas are 3 coats of white. The bunny is a mix of warm beige and snow white. Do not clean your brush. Dirty brush right into some burnt umber, and you're going to paint the snout and the ends of the hands. Do not clean your brush. We're going to dirty brush for the bear by adding just more burnt umber into the brush and painting in the bear, and then wipe the paint out and dirty brush into a little bit of white just to lighten that brown that's on your brush, and paint in the inside of the ears and the snout. It's very simple color book coloring. I guess we got some gray in through here as well. So just get all of your base coats in. It's going to take 2 coats for most areas. The white areas will probably require 3. The bunny, I believe I did just 2, but if it's not covering over your dark background real well, you may want to do a 3rd coat on that as well. But they're not big areas, so they should go fairly quickly for getting your base coats in. Okay, this area on the snowman, which I don't think is in my mix here, is white with just the tiny little bit of that bright blue to get this really soft blue here. So I'll be sure and add that into my instructions because I don't see it in there. Okay, so now I want to put my line drawing back on here. Just some basic lines on there, nothing dramatic at all, just light lines. If you need to put the eyes and everything where they go, you can add those in. I think I can put those on without too much trouble. So now we are ready to start adding detail. Okay, so my lines for my peppermint, I don't want to be very dark because my paint is going to set that graphite on there. So I'm going to erase them back to where I can just see them. I don't know how well they'll show up in the camera shot, but it just gives me an idea of where I want my peppermint lines to go. They may end up not going exactly where I put these lines. So again, I don't want anything to be too dark. Just a slight little guideline is all I need. If you don't get paint on it, you can come back later and erase any lines that are not necessary. And I think I want peppermint on those as well. So we will add those as we go here. Just want to make sure I'm not too dark. Just a white plastic eraser is all you need to erase this. It's not going to erase completely off anyway. Brush that into your trash can. And let's start adding some peppermint stripes on here. Now we're going to use tomato red. So I'm going to spritz my palette with some water so that I have water when I need to add to my project or my paint. I'm going to grab my line drawing and put it over here in front of me so I can see how I drew my peppermint lines. And where I can see it. So on this thing, I'm just using a 2 round, and I'm going to draw my first little line right there. And I'm going to have a damp brush. If I get to paint where I don't want it to be, I can clean it up. So let me zoom in just a scooch. Might help. So another line here. Get a little bit more paint on my brush. One here. One here, and a little piece of one down here. Oh, kind of like a triangle down there. Okay, I want to make sure all my edges go to the edge. Get all my eraser shavings off of there. Alright, I'm going to move up here to this area. And we're just starting with the wide stripes. That is all I drew on my line drawing, because you can just do it with just the single stripes, or you can come back and add some skinnier ones in between, which is probably what I will do on some of these. Maybe not all of them. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. A little bit of water in my paint so I have a little better flow here. Damp brush. I need to clean up right here. Not green. Okay, got our stripes on there. So I'm going to go down here to my wheels and start painting in some curving lines. I can already see I'm not following, oh, that one got fat. I'm not following my lines that I drew in here, which is fine. They were just kind of a guide. That's kind of a wild peppermint there. None of our peppermints will look the same. Perfectly fine. Oops. Down. Just kind of making a comma stroke for these. Okay, so I'm going to go down my line and finish all of them. I'm going to do that off camera because it's just the exact same way. I'm going to come back and show you how to do the center. We'll do the hat and the shirt, and I believe the bow is going to be a peppermint stripe. Okay, I've got 2 coats on these that I started. I came back and made these a little bit fatter, so I recommend doing that. I think it makes it look a little bit better. And then we're going to put some on the hat. Maybe a little one down here because I feel like there's a big gap right there. Okay. Let's put some little stripes on the bow and on this guy's shirt. So I'm going to go to a detail liner, a 10-0 detail liner. Thin my paint down with some water. Get it a nice inky consistency. No water on your ferrule. And we're going to put stripes on the bow. We're not going to get too awfully detailed with some of this stuff. We can put a couple of stripes on the knot. And then on the shirt, he's going to have a striped shirt. We'll put stripes on the shirt part and stripes on the arms.
bottoms will go this way. And this way. And we'll also put a line at the edge of the sleeve. Okay. Now for the centers of the peppermint, we're going to stay with this 10-0 liner. And I'm just going to start with a little swirl in the middle and then come out from there and start going around my center until I have it all the way out to the edge. So it's not going to be perfect by any means, so don't try to make it perfect, you guys. This is all a playful painting. I'll start with a little circle and then I just keep connecting that circle. On this bigger one, it shows you how to do it a lot better. And then now we're going on the outside on the actual line that separates everything. So that one kind of helped you see it a little bit better, because down in here it's a little bit tricky to see it. So just do the best that you can. You could bring all of these lines to the center and make a little dot in the center if that's a way that you prefer. I do have a video on my YouTube channel that shows how I paint several different kinds of peppermint, so you can go check that out. Or if you have a favorite way that you like to paint peppermint, you can certainly do that. Staying up on the very tip, I'm not giving my brush any pressure. Pressure is what makes those little fat spots that you don't like. So try and stay up on the tip. Inky consistency with your paint. Little lines at a time. Try not to make big swooping lines. That's where our mind goes crazy. And we're just making little lines here. Try not to see everything in its entirety. Try to just see little lines. The line, the line, the line. That one got a little crazy. A little bit more water here in my paint. Now I'm going to go up and do the lines on the hat a second time, but all of these really thin lines, not necessary. So don't feel like you have to come back and give all these lines a second coat, because it is absolutely not needed. Alright, so here is where you get to decide how you want the rest of your peppermint stuff to look. So I do want some thin little lines in between on mine. You do not have to do this additional line. I just think that it makes the peppermint more fun, I guess. So I'm going to go in and add all of my lines on here. Thin lines. Okay, I'll go off camera and finish that. I am going to go up here and put a couple of thin lines in between on this area. Okay, and I really feel like that needs some thin lines in it, because you know everything's got these thin lines, so let's make it cohesive here. I just think it makes the peppermint look more like peppermint. For me, it does. It just kind of finishes off. It's the peppermint kind of, I don't know. It's just the way I like my peppermint to look. Honestly, you can have your peppermint look any way you want. All right, I'm gonna go finish the narrow lines in the rest of these so we can come back and start adding more. Okay, one more place we want to add some peppermint stripes is on this edge. So I'm gonna go the same direction that I created these and make my little bit wider line first. I didn't have any lines transferred for these, so I'm just adding them in. Clean up the bottom edge there. I'm really undecided if I want to make that bow a peppermint bow. I mean, it is a peppermint train. I just don't want to get too carried away with peppermint. Okay, I will come back and repeat those once they're dry, but I'm going to go ahead and add my skinny lines between. I'm going to do it just like I did up here with 2 lines. Okay, so there we've got all of our peppermint kind of completed on there, so we can start adding some shading and detail to them. All right, let's begin shading on our peppermint here. You can use a 1/4 inch angle brush, which is this one, or a 4 or 6 chisel blender. These are short bristled brushes, not like the flat ones. The bristles are short. And I like to use the chisel blenders. I'm going to start out trying these. In my really tight area in here, I will probably go to this 4. The rest of the areas I'm going to see if this 6 will not be too big. Okay, so we're going to shade with some deep burgundy. It's kind of a pinky dark red, not as pink as cranberry wine. You could definitely use cranberry wine here as well, but I'm going to go with this burgundy color, and we're going to go along the bottom edge. I'm going to get a little bit more paint, maybe a little less water. So I loaded the corner of my brush with some more paint and then tapped the water edge of my brush on my paper towel to just remove a little bit of that moisture. So we're going to start on the bottom edge of that. This is my 6 chisel blender, but a 1/4 inch angle will work well. If you prefer to use a flat brush, I would go to a 4 or 6 flat. This one we can go ahead and do the other side of because it's far enough away. And we'll come back and do a little bit at the top and bottom here. So we'll just go along all of our peppermints here. I'm going to go along the edge of the hat here. Okay, I'll let that dry, and we'll come back and do the other edges. Go along the bottom of our, or the top. little tiny bit of water. My paint is not wanting to move, so I needed a little water, so I just went and got a little drop of water off of my palette. Okay, move up to the next one. Now these are such small brushes. If for some reason you get your paint too far over in your bristles, just wash it out and reload it, because we don't want to completely fill our peppermint. I mean, it will almost seem like we're going to fill it once we shade on the opposite side, but we need that opposite side shaded to give it a little bit of roundness. Okay. I'm going to go up here on the bow and a little bit along the bottom of the knot, bottom of this one. We're not making this a fancy bow here, so that one on the engine will be a little bit fancier, but this one will stay more minimal. Let's do the sleeves. Separate them from the body. And I'm going to go next to this just a little bit. I don't want to fill in my shirt. We're going to be shading on that edge of the peppermint, so I don't want to get that too bold on there. Okay, I can go back up and do on this side of the hat. You'll move around as you allow this to dry. You just don't want to go through a float a wet float, because it will remove the float you put on there, and you don't want that to happen. On really thin areas like this, a lot of times I will just slightly tilt up my brush, just so that edge with the paint is the only thing that's really touching that surface. A little water in my brush. I have to come back and repeat it in a few places. Alright, we're going to go on the opposite side, and now I'm going to tilt up a little bit because I want it to be a little bit narrower on this side, not be too wide. I don't want to completely fill in my peppermint, and if you have a little moisture in your brush, it's going to make that process right there so much easier. A little tiny bit more paint. This one almost got filled in. Almost got filled in through the center there. You can see how light that one is in the center, and this one's not quite as light. I'm going to wash my brush out because I feel like my paint's getting a little far over on my bristles, so I'm going to wash it out and kind of reload it. And we're going to go down here to our peppermints. We're going to go around the center area here. We'll let that dry, and then we'll do the outer edge of our peppermints. So right now we're just concentrating on a thin little shading around this center area. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. I like that. Let me do the backside of the hat here. And our wheels should be dry so that we can go and do the other edge. So along this outer edge out here. This is where you can easily reshape your circle if it got a little bit weird looking. I might go to a little bit smaller brush here. So I think I'll go to my 4 chisel blender on these smaller, a little bit smaller wheels, which means this little bitty brush will not hold a lot of paint. So it probably will mean more frequent loading of paint, but it's not going to come over so far on my brush if I keep it just on the corner of that brush. And go around every single peppermint. Okay. I will go off camera and finish this because it is very repetitive. We're already adding a lot of dimension there. I'm loving that. I do want to go back and repeat on some of these areas with a second coat to really round out the peppermints, make them look totally round, and then we'll come and add our highlights on. So I'm going to go off camera and finish my first coats on all my shadings. I'm going to go ahead and do my second shadings, and then we'll come back and highlight. Okay, I've got all of my first shadings done. So on my second shading, I want to add just a little bit of this deep midnight blue into my red here, my deep burgundy. And just kind of darken that red a little bit. It's going to make it like almost a purpley color. And then I want to add this in on some of my areas to create a little bit darker shading. We do need to go up underneath the collar here, and I do have to come in and add some thin stripes in the shirt. So I want to put this up here on the, okay, up here on this. I'll give it a little bit more of a shadow. Along that bottom edge there. A little bit of moisture in my brush. I'm just going to do this along the bottom edge of the peppermint, of the long things. I did it on each edge. Whoops, each edge of this, and I will do it probably on the top and bottom as well, just to give that more dimension. Right now I'm staying on the bottom edge of the peppermint that goes on the top of each box car and the top of the engine. I'm also going to go in the center of my peppermints here and deepen that. That's going to give it a little bit deeper of a center here. That's a little bit too much purple in there, so let's add a little bit more red. I'm gonna go off camera and do all those because they're just a, you have to be careful with these smaller brushes, getting paint over too far on them. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go do the rest of the centers like this one. Just darken in there. And I think that'll be pretty good for our darkening. I did a little bit there and a little bit on the shirt. So I still need to come back and add those thin stripes on the shirt. So I will do that and get the rest of these centers darkened, and then we'll come back and highlight them. Okay, I've got all my shading in here done. So I'm going to add my extra stripe in here, which may not come off as well as I would like because the stripes are already thin in there. So optional step if you want to put that many stripes in there. I think I will go back on the main stripes and maybe thicken them so we can tell which ones are the thick ones. So I'm not really sure that helped, but, or if it made it worse. Anyway, he's got a striped shirt on. So a couple of places that I still want to shade is on the main red areas, like the collar, the ball, and this, but we're going to wait to do that in just a minute. But I do have all of my shadings done. Now that mix of deep midnight blue and burgundy wine was a 1-to-1 mix, and I did it on all 4 sides of this particular piece, just the bottom on all of these straight ones, next to the green and along the back of the hat, and only next to the centers on the peppermint. And I did do a little bit on the shirt next to the boxcar, so and the bottom of the bow. That's where I put all of those dark colors. I will list them specifically in the packet so that you don't get confused, but we're ready to highlight on these now. Okay, let's add our highlight on our peppermint. We're going to use Snow White here. I'm going to use my detail liner, thin a little bit of my paint with some clean water, and then we're going to put a highlight down the center, in the middle of that, along the center here, and it doesn't have to be a solid line, you can break it up. We'll do the hat. On the bow tie here, we'll just go along the top edges and add a little highlight on there. And then the shirt, put a little bit on the sleeves and a little bit through the shirt itself. And then on our peppermints, we're going to go halfway about, and then halfway. And put their highlight on. This one could be a little bit bigger. The highlights are really what brings these peppermints to life. Very, very easy to do. So there you go. We've got our highlights on our peppermint. They look yummy, yummy, yummy. All right, we're going to finish off the red areas, which is this one, and the collar. And they're going to be pretty easy, very quick to do. The rest of this shading and stuff on here will be a little bit more quick. The peppermint took the longest because they have so many steps. You know, the repetitive, making the stripes and going back over them, the wider stripes, shading again, and then highlighting. So peppermint involve a little bit more steps, but the rest of it should be a little bit more quicker and straightforward. Okay, we're going to begin the shading on these just red areas, and I'm going to take my cranberry wine and mix a little bit of black with it. Just kind of sneak up on that black. We're just darkening our red, and I'm going to put it on the right sides. Make this our shadow edge. A little drop of water would be helpful. We're going to do the lower edge of the ball here. And I'm going to do on the collar next to the bear here. I got my brush tilted just a little bit so I can make that a pretty thin line there. And if you so choose, you can put just a little bit, oops, at the edge. Of the red on the arms, but you know what, this is not a totally necessary step, so don't feel like it's something you have to do. Okay, so we've got our shading on there. Go back and repeat it if you need to. Generally you need to repeat it to kind of smooth things out and make sure that it's, you know, got a nice shading color to it. Okay, so for this on the highlight, you have a couple of options. You can use the neons, sizzling pink or fiery red, whichever one that you prefer to use. Either one will look great on this red. So whichever one you have on hand, I highly recommend you using. These are going to make that red just totally pop off of the canvas here. So I'm not 100% sure which one I'm going to use yet. I was leaning towards the fiery red just because I love that color so much. The sizzling pink, definitely much brighter. I'll bring them on camera shot so you can see them. Fiery red, sizzling pink. Your choice. Your choice. Okay, I'm just going to grab a flat brush here, and we're going to, I'm going to do the fiery red, I think, because that is the color that I initially wanted to put on here. Ooh, look at that red. Pop, pop, pop. Man, love it. I wanted it to be a little bit different than what we have down here on the peppermint. So all right, let's go do the collar here. Very outside edge, or the bottom edge here. Oh, look at that. Love, 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 love. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I might repeat it, and then we'll come back and add a bright white highlight. All right, we're going to work on the gray areas. There's only the windows and this part right here. So we're going to shade with some lamp black and work that into your brush to make a sheer layer of paint. I've got a 3/8 inch angle now. I'll see if that's going to, it'll probably be too big for down here, but on my windows it should work just fine. I'm going to go along the bottom of my windows, kind of walk that up. to switch over to either a 1/4 inch angle or my 6 chisel. I'm going to go with my 6 chisel, and we're going to go along the bottom edge of this and kind of around that tire. Got my paint a little bit transparent here. Go next to each line, and that's pretty wide. I washed the paint on my brush, left the water in my brush so I could remove some of that. That was a little bit too overpowering, so I'm going to come back and do that when it dries a little bit. Okay, so I'll just dry it real quick so I can move on, because these are the only 2 areas that are gray. And I'm going to go back along these lines here and next to the wheel. I want to come up this outer edge, or the right side of my window. We'll outline these windows when we're done shading and highlighting them. That will clean up their edges nicely. So that is the beginning of our shading there. Okay, I'm going to darken this shading just a little bit. Again, I'm using a sheer float of black, so I'm really letting that blend in with the water in my brush. And then a little bit down here. These are the only areas that are gray, so alright. I'm going to quickly dry that, and then we're going to highlight it with some white. And my red areas should be dry, so I can add a little white highlight on them as well. We'll just do white over here on this little part. And then on the front of the engine here. Now for the white on the pink, I'm going to use my detail liner on the pink, on the red, where we put that fiery red on here. I'm just going to create a little bit of a highlight on here. Okay, just on the collar, the ball of the hat, and along there. I think that gives that a nice little highlight. And I might go with this liner brush down here just to brighten, just in the center of those sections down there. I'm not really going to do any more brightening in there because, I want it to look a little shadowy inside those windows. So that finishes off the gray areas and finishes off those 3 red areas that we added on here. I am going to outline those windows, but I'm going to wait till I get my shading done on my green area here. Okay, to keep us from adding another color into our palette, we're just going to darken our green with some black. So our base color was leaf green, although we mixed a little white in there. We're going to mix our base color of leaf green and a little bit of black to make a dark green. And we're going to shade all of the green areas. I think I'm going to have to go with a much smaller brush here. I probably can use this bigger one here in these sections. And then on the green car, I can use this little bit bigger brush. And we'll go around our peppermint wheels. We're just going to shade on the car. We're not going to highlight until we get our bells painted in. Oops. Stay off my peppermints. Okay, we don't want to forget the scarf. I'm actually going to go down to a smaller brush here because that is a little bigger than what I want to use. So I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch angle here. And we'll go underneath here. And then we need to separate our scarf here. Let's see, let's go on this outside edge of the scarf. On the outside edge of the hat here. Actually, probably would be better if we went along this edge. Here, a little bit down here. Okay, and I want to do the outside edges on this, and we'll go next to our windows here. Let's get some more water on my palette here. Just mixing a little bit of black in there with my leaf green. Kind of tilt your brush up when you get into these tight places. That's going to help not fill the area completely. I'm going to do the right side of our box car here. Oh, I missed some gray areas, I just realized. So we'll step back and do those real quick while the shading dries. So in between these cars are some gray areas here. I need to paint this one in. I had to straighten up my box car so that covered up my gray here. So those areas also need to be shaded on the right side and on the bottom with that gray mix, or with the soft wash, soft float of black. I'll spit it out here in just a minute. Oh my goodness sakes. So we want to go along the bottom first. If I can get enough moisture in my brush would be helpful. Along the bottom. Okay, and then we'll go along the next to the cars. We'll do this on both sides, but keep it very narrow. I'm really up. My brush is completely tilted. Let me see if I can get it tilted up. It's not flat, it's tilted up like this. And so I'm just kind of lining right there, but I've got moisture in my brush, so it's keeping it from spreading across, and it's also keeping it being soft. Okay? And then those can get just a little highlight of white. They don't need a whole lot. Just kind of in the middle here. Just a little touch of some white in there. Okay, they don't need much. Okay, so we've got our shading on our green parts now. I want to first clean up this edge here. It's a little damp brush here. I got my black a little far over into my green. So that's the edge we're going to be highlighting on. I do want to go up underneath the peppermint there as well with that green-black mix. And I think before we go too much farther, we're going to add our dots on here so they can be drying. And then we're going to paint in our elements on top of our cars. Okay, so I got my shading on my green done there, but we do need to get our elements painted in here. So I think we're going to work on that next before we do any highlighting on the green. Actually, I could go ahead and finish this one with highlight and then come in and paint my element on it. Okay, we are going to go ahead and highlight our green areas. Preferably in the instructions, you might want to, I'm typing the instructions as I'm painting it. So I have the green areas next, but preferably you might want to jump down to paint in the elements here, and then we can shade around them the same time that we shade the actual boxcar. So we're going to highlight with Citron Green on our hat. All the green areas will get some Citron Green in it, and I'm just going to kind of brush some in those areas. I'll have to come back and do it. Citron Green is pretty transparent, so it kind of will fade down in there, which is kind of nice. It keeps it from being overpowering. So do that on all of your green areas. We'll probably repeat this if you want it a little bit more bold. I'm going to put a little highlight in here. We may end up not seeing that after we shade around our bells. Go back and brighten, because I did have a lot of water in my brush when I put some here. It's just a little dot of stuff there. And then you'll just brighten all of your green areas. I'm going to keep it light on that. I initially put dark there, but I want it to be brighter. So I'm definitely going to repeat those green areas, get them nice and bright. I'm going to dry this one so I can quickly do a second bright highlight. Right through here, and just kind of dab some in this area right there. Okay, that is looking pretty good. So we're going to just finish this off with a bright highlight of white. Get this a little bit brighter here. Okay, that's making me a little happier. Bring that down just a scooch. That's looking pretty good. I like that highlight on the green. And so you'll just finish off with a bright highlight of white on here. And I'm just going to use my little round brush and add a little swoop of some highlight here. Just a little bit through these areas on the front edge. And maybe a little dot in there. Oh, don't forget the scarf. And we got to put our tassels on our scarf here. So we're going to do that with our leaf green and citron green. So I'm just going to pull some out like this. Over here we probably won't even see them because they go underneath our rabbit, but this one, oh, okay, this one we'll see. So we'll put some on there. That's leaf green. And then we'll do some citron green. A detail brush would work well here. And then I'm just wiping my brush off in between colors, and we'll get a couple little white ones in there. Okay, so that will finish off our scarf and our green areas. So before I continue on, I'm going to paint all of my elements here, my bow, my wreath, my bells, my holly, and get those base coated in. So as we shade the rest of our cars, we can shade around those elements. That will make it so much easier. Okay, let's get our elements base coated in here. Our bow, I'm going to make a yellow bow. So I'm going to mix moon yellow and white. One moon yellow and 2 snow whites. I don't know. We're going to make it a light yellow, so I initially was going to paint this a peppermint bow, but then I felt like it was just a little bit more peppermint than what I wanted on this train. So I'm just painting in each element on their own so I can not have to transfer my lines back in. I am just using a 8 chisel brush here, but you can use a round brush or a small flat. You might even be able to get it done with a filbert brush. Okay, we'll let this dry and then we'll apply a second coat on here. Oops. Okay. For our wreath is going to be pretty easy to do. We're just going to put some dabs of paint on here. We're going to start, I'm just going to use a round brush. We're just going to start with some leaf green and we're just going to dab in our wreath. It's going to be very easy. That way we can make our circle not perfect to make it look a little more like a wreath. Okay, how fun is that? All right, our bells, we're going to mix antique. Do I have antique gold? I don't even have antique gold out, but I'm going to need antique gold, so let me grab that. I think I was trying to keep my list from a paint list to becoming so big, but Okay, we're going to do Antique Gold and Snow White, a 1-to-1 mix here. You might have to put your line drawing on here with some white graphite. My bells are not shaped the best. I'm having a hard time seeing my lines that I put on here, so these are going to be kind of wonky looking bells. Okay, let me look at my line drawing so I can see how I drew them. That might be helpful. Okay, got another one here. Try and draw this one in so I can see where it needs to go, and then it goes up underneath this bow here. So we'll just get these base coated in. This is a mix of antique gold and white. These are just my first coats, so and I actually have this one on top. This one on the bottom, so I don't know how well they're going to look like bells, but maybe when I do my shading they'll look better. Okay, the holly over here is going to be leaf green and white mixed together to make a light green. That's what I get for moving my surface. I guess I should unlock my wheel so I can move it that way. Alright, this is green and white mixed together, leaf green and snow white. And 3 leaves. Okay. I'm going to go off camera and repeat all of my layers except on my green here. I don't think I'm going to repeat the layer on that one, but I'm going to second coat this, and second coat my holly leaves. Okay, all of my elements are base coated in. The bow was a 1-to-1 mix of bright blue and white. So now we can work across our train and shade all and finish out all of our elements, and then when we go into our painting our cars, shading on our cars, we can shade around those elements. Before I start, up here in this area I want to put some dots. So I'm going to take my bright blue and the small paintbrush and just put some dots up here, varying sizes here and there. Okay, I think we're good. I think that looks pretty good. So we just want some dots in that area. I want them to get dry before we shade on there. So we'll let those dry and move on to other elements on our painting. I'm going to erase some lines here. Any graphite lines that I can still see, I'm just going to go ahead and erase. Alright, so we're going to work on the bow here and just finish it up. So antique gold is what we're going to shade with. And we'll shade on each side of this. I'm going to go inside our loopy loop here. I'm back to using just my chisel blender, my number 6. Inside that loop. This particular design has a lot of smaller elements, so it's a little bit more kind of bouncing all over the place. with your paint. So don't get discouraged about that. Okay, outside edges of our bow loops. It's going to give our bow some dimension. And we'll do the bottom of our knot here and a little bit right next to it on the bow loops. Okay, and then the lower part of our ribbon here can get a little bit. Okay, well, it's making that look so cute already. Okay, looking super cute. Now we want to repeat all of these shadings to, you know, make it stand a little bit more bold. And normally I would go and add another color in here and darken, but I'm just going to keep it this gold color, antique gold, and just do another quick little shading. Everything with antique gold. I kind of want to keep this bow a little bit brighter. Okay, just over all the places where you put your initial little float on there. And then we just have to highlight it with some white. It's a very, very quick little bow. Okay, a little highlight of white. We're going to go across the top on these areas. You can make this look like satin ribbon. Go across the top here and here. We'll do the top. And then inside the bottom of the loops, just in the centers. Bring this down. Actually, I'm going to just kind of tap that down the center of the loops, and that's going to give that a little bit more of a satiny look there. Okay, I want to let that dry so that I can repeat it. Second little quick highlight. You don't have to fill all of the space that you filled on the first highlight. And there we go. We got our bright little bow right there. Super, super cute. Okay, we're going to go over and finish our wreath now. Okay, so we dabbed that in with leaf green. So we're just going to take a little bit of the citron green and put some of this in here. Just little dabs. Don't think too hard about it. You know, just just the illusion of a multicolored wreath. Okay, that doesn't take too much at all to do. And now we're just going to put a few dots of red on there for berries. Tomato red. Let me get some of that out of my palette. It's dried up. So I'm just going to use this little round brush and just put a few little dots here and there in our little pine, or our little wreath. Okay, that looks pretty good. I may dry that real quick and try and put a little dot of white. If it won't fill, I'm just going to pick a few of the bigger the bigger berries there. Okay, and just using my little detail brush, I'm just going to pick a few. And give some dots onto there. Brighten up those berries. Dry that very quickly. And then we will shade on the bottom of this with some of our mix of leaf green and black. Just to give it a little bit of weight down at the bottom. And I want to do this very kind of dabby because I don't want to end up making that look too overly rounded there. And I think we'll put a little bit up here on this edge, inside. Okay, that gives our wreath a little bit more roundness. We can highlight with a little bit of white on here, but you know, that's totally up to you. Do it on this side and down here in this area. So a little bit of white on there. And that will probably fade in there, so you can come back and repeat that. It's pretty dry already, so I'll just give it a little perk up here. Okay, I think that takes care of the wreath. I like that. Okay, we're going to move to the bells here. These things are so small. They really should go very quickly. I mean, we're using such small amounts of paint. Okay, so I'm going to shade on these with antique gold. Kind of separate our bells here. And we'll go underneath our bow. And I'm going to go along the bottom of these bells. Okay. All right, while that's drying, we'll shade on our bow with some midnight blue, or deep midnight blue, what we used in our background here. All right, I'm going to stick with this 6. Go around our knots. Might add a tiny bit of bright blue in there so that's not quite so dark. Okay, you can repeat all these steps as you need to. I will repeat the antique gold on the bells. Okay, so that's our initial shading. Let me dry that and see if I want to put a second shading on the bow or not. A heat tool when painting smaller elements like this is definitely going to be your friend. So the 1-to-1 mix of deep midnight blue and bright blue. And that'll keep that bow from getting too incredibly dark. Okay, and then everything will get highlighted with white, and we're going to put a little bell, a little dong thing coming out of there with black, I think. So let's add our white highlights on here. Go on the top of our bow, the loop, or the knot. See if I can shape this bell. Not the best looking bells, but we'll get by with them. Okay, I'm going to put a little dot of black down here. Maybe a little dot of white on top of it. That may end up fading in there because I'm putting it on top of wet paint here. I'm going to take my detail liner and brighten up my highlights here. Okay, very simple bells and not a lot to them. So that's going to finish our bells. Let's move to our holly. I'm trying to keep these elements very simple. They're not the focal point, so we don't have to spend tons of time trying to add exquisite detail to these. Okay, on our holly we're going to shade with leaf green and that little bit of black that we put on here. So just brush mix that, a tiny little bit of black, leaf green, making a dark green, and we'll just shade on the lower edges and a little bit in the center. These are not going to, again, have tons of detail, so don't overanalyze any of this stuff. The dark side is on the right, so I'm going to keep this one dark on the right. And repeat if you need to. Most of these are okay. A little bit more in the middle of this one. Okay, very, very simple. We're going to highlight with citron green. Okay, citron green is a more transparent color. So we're going to put it on the light edges. I'm not going to add a vein down these. I don't need to have that much detail on these. I'm going to dry that so I can repeat it before we add our white highlight on there. Citron green. Just a little bit of paint is all you need here. Okay. And then we're going to add a bright little highlight of white on there. I'm going to grab my little round brush here, or a detail liner, whatever you feel comfortable using, and we're just going to put a little highlight on here. Okay, and then we're going to dot our red on here like we did on the berries, only we'll make these a little bit bigger. So we can use the end of our paintbrush to do this, or just come in here with a round brush and add 3 little berries on there. We're going to dry them and dot them with some white. Okay, some little dots of the Snow White on here, or a big dot, however it works out. Okay, so that's got all of our elements on our train cars done. Okay, so I want to finish up our engine first. So I'm going to go back to our little dots on here, and we're going to shade this area. Okay, and then we're going to come down and shade this area and finish out our headlight. Okay, I initially was planning on shading this with Deep Midnight Blue, but I think I'm going to do a mix of Deep Midnight and Bright Blue, just an equal mix here. And we're going to shade on this. Probably like to be on camera for that, wouldn't you? I'm going to mop that just a little bit. It's probably too dry to mop already. I'm undecided what color I'm going to paint this stripe right here. Thought about making it peppermint as well, which I might do, just because I think it will look super cute. Okay, we want to go around our windows too, up on the chisel edge like we did when we did the gray part. I've got too much paint in my brush here. Let me clean that out. Okay, so that's that area there, and I think I'm going to go ahead and make that peppermint in there. So let's just add some lines. These are fatter lines. And I'll see if I can squeeze some thin ones in there. Let that dry, and then I'll come back and shade it like I did on the other areas. Okay, let's go down and work in on the blue area of this car. Deep Midnight Blue is what we're going to shade with, and we'll also go ahead and shade this blue one down here while we're shading on our blue. So we're going to go around our wheels. Okay, we'll just start there for now. I'm using a 3/8 inch angle, but I will be switching to a smaller brush as I continue shading on these cars. Let's go along the back edge here. I'm just going to go right over my ribbon. I'm going to go all the way up through that blue area. I'll do this one real quick, and then I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. So that I can go around the elements. We're still just using Deep Midnight Blue. Go around our ribbon. I'm up on the tippy toe when I go into those little tight areas. don't need much water in your brush when you're using this color because it's kind of transparent. And we'll put some up here, give a little bit of shadow up here. Okay, let's go down to this car. We'll go around our holly. A little bit up here, just around the berry part, and then we want to go underneath the peppermint. Go right across your holly leaves if they come up that far. A little bit darker down here. Clean up your shading. Come all the way up that. And then I'm just going to tuck a second little shading in. Some of my very tight areas. Okay, go back over to my holly here in a second. If you get it on your ribbon, clean it up, okay? That's going to help a lot. I look pretty good over here, actually. I'm going to clean up a little bit there. Yeah, I think I'm looking pretty good. On this car, it looks like it's got some good shading on it. So that's our blue areas we're going to shade. I think I might do just a skinny little shade. So really up on the tippy toe of the brush, right here. Next to the wraparound part of our ribbon. Okay, not getting this paint to work into my brush well here. Okay, in the end we pretty much went around the whole ribbon. Wider at the bottom than at the top. Okay. Alright, so that is our shading on our blue areas and on our polka dots here, which we did an equal mix of bright blue and deep midnight blue. And then on our blue areas, our engine and our blue box car, we did just straight deep midnight blue. Okay, let's highlight on our blue box cars. So I'm going to mix white and bright blue, 2 whites, 1 bright blue. Actually, I think I'm going to go a different route, so let me change directions here. Okay, I am going to do that mix of 2 white and 1 bright blue here. Just kind of dry brush skimming this little float on here. A little bit down through there. And then we'll go over here and do this one. A ton on my brush there, so let me wipe that off. Use that water edge of your brush. It is a handy little tool when you need to thin or remove paint there. Okay, so that was a mix of white and bright blue, a 2-to-1, 2 white, 1 blue. I do want to repeat it on here. Get a little bit brighter. And then we'll brighten with just some white on there. Okay, let's brighten with just Snow White. I think I'm just going to use my round brush here and do my bright highlight. Okay, so just a little bright highlight on there. I think that will finish the blue areas. So the yellow areas, while you are painting these guys in and your bow, you could shade and highlight on these two areas because they're going to be done the same way, antique gold and white. So I am going to do those off camera real quick. I do want to put a color around my windows. I think I'm going to do citron green. So my first layer is going to be citron green and Snow White mixed together. That's a pretty wide little window frame there. Doesn't have to be that wide. That's pretty darn wide. I might take my damp brush and narrow that side a little bit. Okay, I'll go around this other side, or this other window. Hopefully my windows look the same size and length, but I'm thinking maybe not. Definitely not. Definitely this one's a little long. I think I painted my original gray a little long there, so I think I might just go down and make this one a little bit longer. If I can, and get them a little bit closer to the same color. Okay, so when those are dry, I'm going to repeat with another layer of the citron and white, maybe just straight citron, and then put a little bright highlight just on the top and left side, just for some highlight. I don't think I'm going to do a lot of detail to those window frames. I may come back and darken on these two edges with some dry brushing. So yeah, let me just go ahead and finish those out. Okay, I put a second quick layer on my windows. While it's wet, I'm going to go into my leaf green and just kind of dry brush that color down on the bottom and up the right sides. Doesn't have to completely fill that frame. We're just going to kind of darken those edges. And then we'll just do some white on the other side. Okay, and I think that's all we're going to do to those. I don't want them to get too, you know, overpowering. They're not a focal point. I do want to go back and shade underneath them though. Okay. All right, our windows are crooked, I feel like, but they are done. Okay, our train itself is done. All the box cars are done, all the peppermint is done. So we're gonna finish out our 3 little riders on this train. So we're gonna start with the snowman. And we kind of mixed a very light blue to base him in. So we're gonna shade him with some bright blue. And this will be on the right sides. I'm using a very sheer layer of this paint. Go underneath the hat. And around our little carrot nose. Hopefully these characters can go pretty quickly. I'm going to dry that and repeat just in these dark little areas here. Oops. And that was with our blue. Get the moisture out of my brush here. Just right here, this little V area, and right here. Very tippy toe of the brush there, you guys. Okay, we're going to highlight with white. He is going to be super, super quick. And we'll repeat the highlight a couple of times. While that is drying, we're going to work on the nose. And I've got some tiger lily that I kind of want to wash over his nose to make it a little brighter. So let me shake it up. I've had this one setting for a while. We'll see if this will brighten up the nose a little bit. Make it a little more orange. The nose isn't gonna, you know, we're not gonna do much to the nose. I just want to make it a little more orange. Not, you know, put a lot of detail into it. A little more white. And you can put some pink on the cheeks of the snowman if you want to. I'm going to keep them a little more basic. Let me get some fresh black out. I'm going to do the eyes and the mouth. So we only see one eye up here. Let me dry that white real quick. I don't want my white to turn gray, or my black to turn gray. So we're going to have a eye pretty much right here. And then we'll do some of the dots for the mouth here. Kind of give him some little character there. I'm going to put a little bit more of that orange on the nose, the carrot nose, and then we need to draw his arms in. I'm going to use the warm beige and burnt umber mixed together. Probably 1 warm beige and 2 burnt umber, I think. Get a little bit more of a stick color. We'll see if this will even show up. Just make some little stuff coming off the edge there. I'm going to thicken up the arm just a scooch here. And then we're going to have an arm coming up here. So this arm comes out from underneath and goes up like this. It's like he's going whee. Let's see if I can make that a little bit darker by adding a little bit of black in there. Okay. Then we can come back with a little highlight on those arms with some white. I'm gonna push this one underneath with a little shading of just some sheer black here. Okay, maybe a little shadow underneath there. And then a highlight of some white. Okay, so we got his arms on there. He's done. That's all we have to do to our snowman. Maybe a little highlight on the eye, I think might be something we need to do. He's not got a lot of detail on him. A little highlight on the nose, and we're going to call that guy done. He is done. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these characters because they're small, kind of like these things here. They're just some added extra in here. Okay, let's work on our bunny. We're going to shade him with some burnt umber. Get him all finished up very quickly. So we're going to go around our snout. Oh, I got some black in my brush here. Let me remove that. So we don't want black in here, just the burnt umber. Try that again. Just burnt umber. I'm going to go around our snout thing under our bow. The lower part of the arms. Burnt umber is a sheer color, so which makes it nice. We're going to put a little groove in the ears and a little groove down each side here where the eyes are going to go. Okay, we can repeat all those to kind of darken and define a little bit better. I'm going to darken on this side of the face. He's going to be pretty dark down here where he goes into the car. Oh, that's a light side. We don't want dark there. And then we'll go up this edge of the ears. Okay. On his pads, I'm going to mix a little bit of black in with my burnt umber, just a little bit. And we'll put some shading on here. And on the muzzle. Bottom of the muzzle. Okay. All of our highlights are going to be white. We're keeping these guys pretty easy. You can put a candy cane in each of their hands if you want. Oh, I don't have you on camera for any of that. That's what happens when I zoom in. Okay, so I highlighted here, here, top of the head, left side of the cheek, on top of the muzzle, on the hands and the tops of the arms, and a little bit on the chest there. So now I'm going to repeat all those, and hopefully I will have you on camera for it. Hope you're on camera for the shading. I will point out the shading just in case you were not. I didn't look up at my camera one time. Okay, so shading was on the ears next to the head, around the muzzle, bottom of the arms, around the bow, and next to the peppermint here. So we only had a little highlight there, bottom of the arms. And then I repeated all that and did a float down the center to make the line down the center of the ears, and then a float down the head. So we've repeated our white highlight 2 times. Let me give it a third. And on the muzzle. Okay, so let's put a dot in here for eyes. And the nose, we're going to use black. Dot where you put that line. Dot there. Try to make those eyes the same time, and then a dot there for the nose. Now on my line drawing I drew a mouth for my bunny, but I think I'm just going to leave it with the nose. I think it's super cute with just the nose. And then we can put a little highlight in the eye if you want to. And that's going to finish up the bunny. Super, super quick and easy. Okay, our bear we're going to shade with the lamp black and burnt umber mix. So let's do 2 burnt umber, 1 lamp black. We'll go next to the sleeves, around the muzzle, right side of the face, in front of the ears, on the head, on the right sides of the ears, and we'll do the lower parts of the arms. Okay, we're going to shade on the muzzle with just burnt umber and a little bit inside the ears. We don't want the ears to get filled in, so don't let them get filled in. Okay, so you can repeat those. I definitely want to repeat the shading on the head here. It kind of didn't get enough color. Okay, that's our burnt umber and black. 2 burnt umber, 1 black. If it gets too dark, just add more burnt umber. Kind of making it almost a soft black color. But we don't need to get another paint color out, so we will just make our own. Okay, we're going to highlight with warm beige. On the left of the ears, top of the hands or arms, top of the head. Let's see, I've got a line coming down this bear's head, so I need to make that line, kind of like I did on the rabbit. That's with that black and burnt umber mix. Just comes down the center right there. The muzzle we're going to highlight with white. So you'll want to repeat the highlights, obviously. The warm beige we will repeat a second time and then brighten with white. And the white we will definitely repeat a second time. Alright, I'm going to dry that because when I go with the white on the muzzle there, I'm going to just put it everywhere. On all my highlights. Okay, make sure it's dry after you do that kind of heat drying. Okay. And then we're going to dot the eyes with black. Dot here and a dot here. There's a little bit more paint on my brush. And then a nose dot. And a tiny little highlight of white. On the bear's eyes. And that finishes up the bear. So we need to put a glow coming from our headlight, some steam coming out of the top, and some snow along the bottom. Okay, let me wide angle out here. We are going to create some steam coming up out of here and a glow here. So the first thing that I want to do is tape off my smokestack here, so that I don't get white on it. So I'm just going to take a piece of Scotch tape and tape that off right there. And I'm just going to grab any kind of scruffy brush. I just happen to have a small stencil brush handy. I don't know how clean that one is. Let me grab a different one. Okay. So you don't have to do with this a stencil brush. Any kind of brush can dry brush. Okay, this is just what I grabbed here. So I think I want some fresh white out. We're going to do this with white. And my brush is going to be dry. I'm going to work some paint into it a little bit and offload it. I'm going to start here and just very lightly start creating some steamy stuff coming up out of my smokestack. Okay, I'm giving a little bit of swirling motion. And this is a big smokestack, so we want a little bit of steam coming out of it. Then I'm going to come down here to my light and start dry brushing a glow coming off of our headlight. And I'm going to want to repeat this. Okay, that's the first time for that. Grab some more white and offload. I want just a tiny bit more up here in my steam. Just going to tap it on there. And then on my glow, I obviously want more. So on the glow here, you might want to do it 2 or 3 times. Get it really bright glow next to the light. And then let it kind of diffuse out. Okay. Ah, super cute. Super cute. Okay, I want to make sure that my steam is connected there. I'm going to dry this one because it was a little wetter than what I wanted it to be. Okay, I left a little bit more paint on my brush. I'm going to tap because I want a little bit brighter glow coming out here. Okay, and then I'm going to tap up here because I want a little bit of some brighter steam bits. Okay, let me remove this because I think I'm done with my steam. Oh, look at that. So cute. So cute. All right, I think I'm done with my light. I did do that 3 times right here next to the smokestack. And then the third time I just did a little bit up that way. But this one definitely you want to do it 3 times to give that beautiful little glow. I'm going to stick with this brush right here. And we're going to create our snow kind of under and around our train. So I'm going to take my bright blue. Let me get some fresh bright blue out here. And I'll grab some fresh white because we're gonna mix our blue and our white and make a very light blue here for our first layer of snow. I'm gonna remove a lot of this off of my brush. You can see it's a light blue compared to our white that we had a while ago. And then we're just gonna come in and start tapping our snow around our train. You can bring it up onto your peppermints. Offload a little bit there. That was quite a little glob of paint right there. Alright, we're going to come down and make our snow. I'm just using a stencil brush, but any old type of brush will do. I'm going to very gently start this layer because I still feel like I have a ton of paint on my brush here. Okay, I want it to be in between my peppermint wheels, but I don't really want it to be on them, you know what I mean? Okay, so if you get some on, clean it off. I mean, it's up to you. If you want it up on there, it's fine. It's your little train, so. This is that blue and white mix. Just a little bit of each. There's really no ratio here. Just make a light blue, kind of a little bit darker than what we painted in our snowman. Okay, we're just going to do this layer, and then we're going to clean out this brush as best we can. And do a couple of white layers on here. And then we'll do one more splattering for snow flying everywhere. I think this is super, super cute, you guys. Super cute. I think I've cleaned most of the blue out of my brush. There's still going to be a little residual blue in there. But we're going to do the white a couple of times, so we should eventually see a little bit brighter snow. So I'm just going to tap this in here, and I want to not do it solidly so we can leave some darker areas coming in here. You know, make some little mounds of snow and make it a little fun. I think sometimes we think snow is harder than it is, but it's generally pretty easy when you're doing it like this. We're just giving the illusion of snow. Some soft, fluffy snow in here. I'm loading and offloading so that I don't put too much down at once, and I'm not tapping very hard, so I'm not pushing a lot of paint into this canvas. So that is the second layer, and I want to go one more layer on here and get it just a little bit brighter in some key places, you know, make some a little bit bigger mounds of some bright snow on here. So I am tapping a little bit harder now and just doing some random places. Still leaving some dark areas in there. And look how cute this is, I'm telling you. Okay, I think that's pretty good for our snow. This little wheel didn't get much snow around it. Okay, looking pretty good. So now all I want to do is splatter on it again like we did on the background and create some blowing snow around them. Keep a damp brush handy, because if you get paint somewhere on here that you don't want, so say a big blop drops on the eye somewhere, you can clean it off very, very quickly. Alright, I've got my thinned white here, and I don't think I have it as thin as what I originally had it. Get it a little bit. Still not quite as thin, but I think we can get some snow on here. These little stringy ones here, I don't want those, so I'm going to take my damp brush and remove those. This is a little bit finer snow than what I did initially, and I kind of like this finer stuff. And oh, so cute. Oh, got some stringers. Don't want stringers. Can take a baby wipe and clean these off as well. Alright, let me see if I can get a few more. Even down here in the snow area. Oh, I think that's super, super, super cute. Really snowy effect on there. I love that, and I'm not a huge fan of splattering, as a lot of you know. But I think that turned out super, super cute. Oh, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. So any places that you feel like were too much, you can diffuse them back if they're still wet with a baby wipe, okay? But I love mine. I think the way that the snow looks on here looks awesome. My steam looks great. My glow from my light looks great. You guys, this was super fun to do for you guys. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I can't wait for you to paint it. And if you're not a fan of the multiple colors of the car, I just want you to know you could paint them all gray and still put those elements on there. One thing that was on my line drawing that I did not add, because I feel like at this point it's completed, was add these lights. So if you want to add lights, you can. If you paint it all gray, those lights would be great and you can create the glow of it, but I felt like at this point it would be too busy. So we're just going to go with it just like this. I think it is super, super cute You guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this, if you are watching on YouTube. And please like, comment, and share. I appreciate you guys, every single one of you. Have a great day, you guys. Bye-bye.